Okay, let's dive into one of the most influential and, let's be honest, complex books of the ancient world, the prophecies of Isaiah. What we're going to see is this incredible collision of two powerful ideas, devastating judgment, and right alongside it, this absolutely unshakable hope. And right from the get-go, the book opens not just with condemnation, but with this radical promise of a total reset. It sets up the whole conflict we're about to explore. This isn't just a threat, it's an invitation, a chance for a complete do-over that kind of hangs in the air over everything that's about to happen. So Isaiah starts his work almost like a doctor making a diagnosis. And, well, the diagnosis is grim. He's essentially holding up a mirror to his own society, the kingdom of Judah, and forcing them to really see the sickness that's taken hold. He uses this really powerful metaphor, comparing the nation to a diseased body. He says the whole head is sick, which suggests that the leadership, the thinking, the very mind of the nation has gone bad. And it gets even worse. The whole heart faints. He sees wounds and bruises and sores from head to toe that have just been left to fester. So this isn't some surface-level issue. It's a deep, systemic rot, a moral and spiritual decay that has infected every single part of their world. And what's really fascinating here is that Isaiah's critique isn't just about, spiritual things. It is intensely social and political. He's basically laying out a foundational argument for social justice. He points right at the leaders, saying everyone loves bribes. He calls out a justice system that completely ignores the most vulnerable people, the orphans and the widows. And then he says all their religious services are totally useless, even offensive, because their hands are, in his words, full of blood. To really drive the point home, he tells this story, a parable, to show God's perspective. It's all about deep care being met with bitter disappointment. Imagine a landowner who does everything right for his vineyard, clears the stones, plants the absolute best vines, builds a watchtower. He's expecting a harvest of good grapes, which Isaiah tells us represents justice. But instead, all he gets are these worthless, sour, wild grapes, a metaphor for oppression and bloodshed. The message couldn't be clearer. The nation had failed to produce the one thing that truly mattered. So all this rot on the inside, it makes the nation incredibly vulnerable to a terrifying threat from the outside. That internal moral decay is about to have very real, very violent consequences on the world stage. So, when invasion is imminent, King Ahaz absolutely panics. The text says his heart shook like trees in the wind. Classic. He's ready to make this desperate political deal with the brutal Assyrian Empire. But Isaiah steps in and offers a totally different path. Take heed and be quiet. Do not fear. He's calling for a response based on faith, not on political maneuvering and fear. And here's the really crucial points. Isaiah sees the massive rising Assyrian Empire not as some random political event, but as a tool for divine judgment. He actually calls Assyria the rod of God's anger, sent to punish Judah. But, and this is a fascinating twist, Isaiah also says that Assyria's own pride and arrogance will eventually be its own undoing. But just when you think it's all doom and gloom, even while he's predicting disaster, Isaiah delivers some of the most powerful visions of hope ever written. This is the great paradox of the book. Judgment is never, ever the final word. He talks about this future ideal king from the line of David who will finally bring about real justice and peace. This promised ruler won't be anything like the corrupt kings they're used to. No, his government will end oppression and his reign will be one of ultimate peace. And what does that world look like? Well, Isaiah gives us this incredible picture of total global disarmament. He imagines a future where the actual tools of war are melted down and reforged into farming equipment. It's just this radical vision of a world completely healed from violence. Now, central to all this hope is this idea of the remnant. Isaiah is super clear that the coming judgment is going to be devastating, like a forest being completely clear-cut. But he promises that a stump, a holy seed, will be left in the ground. Destruction would never be total. And from that small group of survivors, God would rebuild his people. From here, Isaiah's focus starts to zoom out. It expands way beyond Judah's borders to the arrogant superpowers of his day. He's making it clear that divine justice isn't just for his own nation, it's for everybody. So he delivers this series of poetic judgments, they're called oracles, against all the surrounding empires. He's declaring that all nations, not just his own, are accountable for their pride, for their violence.
He sees a world where every single kingdom, no matter how big and powerful, will ultimately have to answer for its arrogance.
And his famous taunt, which was directed at the king of Babylon, it just perfectly captures the core message. Divine power will always, ultimately, humble human pride. It's a timeless warning against the hubris of empire. The king had thought to himself, I will ascend into heaven. I'll be like the Most High. And Isaiah's poem just completely mocks that ambition, showing him thrown down into the dirt.
So all of these themes, judgment, faith, hope, they're all about to get put to the ultimate test in this incredibly dramatic historical showdown. The prophecies are no longer abstract ideas. They're about to become a matter of life and death for the city of Jerusalem.
The Assyrian army, which had basically conquered everything in its path, shows up at the gates of Jerusalem. And their commander, a guy called the Rabsakeh, doesn't just get ready for a fight. He launches a campaign of psychological warfare, shouting insults in Hebrew so everyone on the city walls can hear him.
He mocks King Hezekiah's trust in God, pointing out, pretty logically, that no other nation's gods have been able to stop Assyria. He lists all the cities they've conquered, all the gods they've defeated, and he asks the ultimate question, what makes your God any different? It's a direct challenge to every single thing Isaiah has been preaching. While in response to King Hezekiah's prayer, the story gives us a stunning miracle. Isaiah prophesies that the Assyrian king won't even get to shoot a single arrow into the city. And that very night, the story says, the angel of the Lord strikes down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers in their camp.
The siege is broken, Jerusalem is saved, and Isaiah's prophecy is proven right in the most dramatic way you can imagine. The people of Jerusalem wake up, and the invincible army is just gone. Sennacherib limps back home in disgrace and is later assassinated in the temple of his own God, the very God he claimed was so much better.
Now, you'd think the story would end there, right? A huge victory, an incredible moment of vindication. But Isaiah has one last chilling vision for the future, one that shows the cycle of pride and judgment is far from over. After this miraculous deliverance and after he recovers from a deadly illness, King Hezekiah gets a visit from some envoys from Babylon. And instead of giving credit where it's due, he gets cocky. He makes a huge mistake. He gives them a full tour, showing off every bit of treasure and weaponry in his entire kingdom. Isaiah confronts him immediately. What did you show these guys? And then the prophet delivers a devastating final prediction. One day, everything you so proudly showed them, the treasure, even your own descendants, it will all be carried off to Babylon. That great victory over Assyria didn't solve the deeper problem of human pride, and it sets the stage for the next great chapter in this epic story. And it leaves us with this lingering question. In our own moments of crisis and success, which voice do we listen to? The one that screams fear and pride, or the one that calls for justice and quiet trust?